I just want a few minutes of make sure, check the box when these two gentlemen are here before they wrap to the end. Just to go through each section, starting with messaging. Does anyone in this room have questions about what email transformation will look like, given what you've just heard? We're going to go through this in the town hall, but I just want to take a couple of top-level questions on these so that those that have them, we can go through them quickly while the experts are here on the stage. Any reaction to what you've heard about messaging? Anything that you thought was different than what you've been told? Fairly thorough. Desktop, I would imagine there should be no hand in the room. Does anybody have any concerns about desktop refresh? Questions about the definition of what that means? Whether or not we have to fully replace the PC or whether we can simply load on the software. Reasonable? Help desk? Most of you are doing it. Any questions about the definition of success on help desk? Okay, good. We're 3 for 3. Now I think the bottom three are where I'd like to make sure we're clear. On servers. Any questions about servers? Probably the big nuance there is that not every server has to physically be in the SESC by June 30 for success, but that is our longer-term plan. Any questions about what success in that means? Good timing. Yes, sir.
Secretary, on servers, we just went through an exercise on food planning and things of that nature as backup. And I just wanted to brief disaster recovery services where required. And I thought that was one of the big purposes of doing this, is to have backup for everybody.
Can you take that?
So sure. The question I have, though, is if we go about that route, as we were doing ours, where we stand in the priority as a department, how much it costs, and when we get around to it are big questions that were unable to be answered in our food plan. Even to the point of, well, you may be one of the priorities, you may have to look at a third-party emergency recovery. And so I just wanted to know, do we have across the Commonwealth a listing of here are the agencies, here are your priorities, here's the time you'll be recovered in these areas, and here's how it will cost?
Great question.
That's a long question, and I'll answer it in a couple of different phases. First of all, the agencies that had disaster recovery services with SunGuard prior to the establishment of the partnership have DR services as a result of the partnership. In fact, they're enhanced DR services because we're using technology to be able to deliver those services better, quicker, and faster. Agencies that did not have a DR service under contract with SunGuard should work with us as we stand up a DR service for new customers, right, to be able to address your needs. All right, so we can and should work with you to be able to meet your specific DR needs. Now, the other question you asked was more, I'll say, holistic in terms of the Commonwealth, which is, has the Commonwealth made a decision on what are the key mission-critical applications from a Commonwealth perspective? And I believe a lot of that is being addressed from the Office of Commonwealth Preparedness and other institutions within the Commonwealth to do exactly what you just said. What we are here to do is provide IT, hot site, or DR services based upon activities that are normally conducted at an agency, which would be a business impact analysis, a business continuity plan, after which a disaster recovery plan would be an outcome.
So just to be clear, Fred, should any agency contract with an outside firm to handle DR, or would the advice to him be talk to your account?
Yeah, I think you have to work through us for many reasons, one of which is we know your infrastructure, we manage your infrastructure, we can provide those services out of either SESC and or SWESC probably better and quicker than you might be able to do with a third-party vendor. So yes, it should go through us.
And that's a good tickler for us, Wayne, on making sure that we've got the COOP plan prioritization effort. Bob Crouch isn't here today. Anybody here from VDEM have a comment on that by chance? VDEM here? Ma'am, do you know where we are on the COOP planning prioritization by agencies? Well, I think we will put that, Wayne, on our file for the next discussion. Any other questions about what server transformation means? Yes, ma'am. The question is the tension between application requirements and servers.
I mean, in my view, in many ways, the application layer really drives the infrastructure layer. So Pat, if we're doing something on the infrastructure side, the server side specifically, that is in conflict with that theory, please bring it to my attention as soon as possible, because that's not something we should be doing at all. So I'd really like to know the specifics of that, because when you're building a server, when you're configuring a server, application is one of the key ingredients in determining the speeds and feeds that a server should have.
So I guess that the answer to the question is that should be the assumption for everybody in this room. If you have application requirements for your servers and you're concerned that the transformed environment will not meet them, please share that feedback with your Northrop Grumman VITA partner. And if there are other concerns as those bubble up, we'll make sure that we have a process to track them. I'm going to turn to you, Peggy, as our Chief Applications Officer, to make sure that A and B are synced up so that if there are any concerns, we can address them. Server transformation questions, the definition of success. Pat Finnerty, are you cool? All right. Do you have a good sense for what you think success means? Has the definition been clear to you, to your team? Sylvia, I'm putting you on the spot because I want to make sure we got an accurate definition of what it means.
I think since we're not involved in the process enough at this point, I'm not sure that we do know exactly. Because I don't know that we know what our environment is going to happen. So that's because our unique status is.
Got it.
I don't know that we have any concerns with that one first.
Anyone else have concerns about what server transformation means in order for us to be successful? Yes, please. And I think we have the mic so that we can hear you better.
Test.
Yes, you're on.
Can this discussion also include E-bars, or is that something else?
Fred.
Electronic backup and recovery, which is what EBARS stands for, is a technology that's been in place in the central data center for many, many, many years.
Right.
It is used to back up data off of the servers that reside in the Chesterfield Enterprise Solutions Center, and prior to that, at the Richmond Plaza building. So when you put a server in CESC, or when we transform a server and relocate it to CESC, EBARS is the current technology that is used to do that. VITA charges for EBAR consumption. So you're charged for the amount of EBAR capacity that you use. We're looking at not only EBARS, but a couple of other things across the technology front and the pricing front that we're considering. We will wind up changing both the technology approach to some of those things and probably the pricing approach to other things as a result of activity that we're involved in right now with Northrop Grumman, something called rebaselining. Okay? I don't know if that gets at some of your concern.
Well, what I was concerned about was when we went to E-bars, we were just billed for 3 months so far. But it was $3,000 a month, so it was going to be approximately $36,000 a year to back up one virtualized 100-gigabyte drive. And a 100-gigabyte drive is, that's 1/5 of what I have on my PC at home. But the charge is going to be like $36,000 a year to back that one little drive up.
As I said, the technology and the pricing side of that equation is being looked at. But, understand that EBARS is something that's been in place for many, many years.
Right.
Something that VITA has been charging for many, many years. And we're looking at that particular element along with others in the coming months.
We're going to talk about the billing and the economic impact of transformation when we ask DPB to get into that. But and I appreciate the question, so I want to reserve the thinking and discussion around that when we get Billy Barbie up here from DPB. But as to the definition of success, yes, sir, in the back. Yes, sir. We got the mic coming, but we hear you.
My name is Earl Anderson. I work for the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Yes, sir.
Application Development Manager, one of the questions I have is when we're done with all this, will there be a process in place where we will know the changes that are going to occur in our environment before they occur? At the moment, we've had a lot of downtime due to changes that we don't know. An example is this month, I have lost 15 development days due to a server crashing because the antivirus on the server was changed.
So you're talking about the syncing up of what your application development plans are versus your infrastructure transformation plans?
No, sir. I'm talking about having servers in place that run just fine, but when something is changed on them, all of a sudden the applications are breaking. We're getting notifications from users and find that something's been changed on the partnership
infrastructure side.
Yeah.
So change management, anytime we make a change to any infrastructure element in the environment, we should be either following the change management process that you have in your particular agency and integrate with it so that we discuss the changes that we're looking to make, you're aware of the changes that we're looking to make, and you agree that we could make the change. It sounds like that didn't happen in your case. We might have rolled out some antivirus or some other software automatically or whatever to a server. Shouldn't happen. So I'd ask offline to give me the specifics and particulars of that incident, and your AOM should absolutely be well aware of what's happening with changes in your environment so that you don't have, as you say, 15 days worth of applications downtime. So it's an unacceptable thing. I agree with it.
We have been told by the partnership staff.
Can you lift up the mic?
We have been told by the partnership staff that there has not even been a plan yet put in place to hold meetings with the agency before changes are made.
I would suggest that that's probably miscommunication, because we actually have something we call a partnership advisory committee that consists of many agencies, some of whom are in this room. We talked about the actual change management process, the process that we'd like to follow not only to make infrastructure changes, but also to integrate with your existing applications change management process. So again, there's a specific issue occurring in your area that we need to correct, and we will.
That's an important point. That's part of the benefit of the town halls, to hear that feedback so we can close the loop and ensure that misinformation is corrected as quickly as possible.
And I would just ask and encourage you that, Rob, that information go to your AOM that day. Don't wait for a town hall.
Yeah.
Our AOM knows. I mean, everybody knows. It's not, we've communicated broadly. That just means, well, I guess to simplify it is I got two guys that have survived transformation that are doing everything they can to keep the servers up and keep things, I guess the term is onboarded. The issue is when they went ahead and upgraded to Norton, that server's uptime went down big time, and the short story is we keep trying to get it resolved. But in the meantime, my two people who are very, we'll say taxed very hard, are still having to do other duties. The issue is, productivity in the application area has been really affected by it. But, I mean, I have a great AOM, and he knows it, and he's trying to do what he can. But I think, I guess from my appearance, he goes into SESC, and I don't know if he comes up with the results that he needs.
Well, that's helpful feedback, so we can ensure
Yeah,
we
need to provide the support that your AOM needs to get the job done, and Doug and I hear that message.
All right. Yeah, there's a few things, if you want to talk offline on it, that we've been waiting for quite a long time on.
I absolutely do, yes.
The definition of success on transformation for servers. Any other questions about what we need to do to get to the finish line on the server side? Network. Were you clear on the network piece? Critical to all of this is making sure we've got the network connected at all of your sites. Anyone concerned or questioned what that means for success? Relatively straightforward, just a lot of work. Yes, ma'am, please.
Does the end user network speed factor into success?
It's a great question, a question that was raised at our committee hearing. How do we measure the speed?
We shouldn't be doing anything to degrade the performance that you received today. In fact, with the network design, I would suggest that there's better resiliency and fault tolerance in the network to be than might be in the network that you currently exist on. So we absolutely should not be, affecting performance both from a network perspective, from a server perspective, from any service area perspective negatively.
I think the committee is looking at the question of how do we kind of measure and remain accountable to that, sniffers and various other strategies to do that. No answers for this discussion, but a point well taken. Yes, Mr. Hobbleman. Speak loud.
The question I had was related to the actual scheduling of master transportation. We have 14 sites left. We don't know when they're going to get scheduled, and we seem to get practice before as good as possible for the schedule.
Yours would be the 14 local sites that have not yet been scheduled. My guess is that it's a trifecta of when the locals want, when Vita wants, when you're ready. Am I wrong?
Your ADM should know the specifics, and I know what your answer is going to be. You've tried to get it from the ADM, and you've been unsuccessful. So actually, that's the somewhat a theme in our next group's presentation, talking about good plans, good communication, et cetera, et cetera. So there again, Robert, I think there's a specific incident or an issue we need to deal with, and that's particular to DSS.
Live case study about how to address a PC refresh. We had to reset the password live in the room. The question was asked, do we have the ability to configure this to be able to delay that? I'm assuming that's part of these questions about how you
we absolutely
balance it.
We absolutely do, and there's no sense we can give that an exemption from even doing a lockup.
Okay. So. Funny little sidebar. So back to network. Any other questions about the definition of success? Okay, finally, security. Any questions about what we need to do to be successful in ensuring we've transformed as to security? There's a lot of material. Yes, sir, back in again. Please, speak up. This is the purpose of the discussion. There's no pain in the neck and no apology needed.
In the security slides that you went through, there was mention of the SSL certificates. We have currently been waiting for over 3 months for an answer on how do we order these certificates.
Right.
Is there currently a method in place for which we can order these certificates? I have a project that is due in a month, and this is putting it behind.
I think SSL or security in general, when it comes to both, VPN, server-based SSL, whatever. We're developing a remote access solution that will include single-tier, multiple-tier authentication, with SSL being a piece of that equation. But again, we should be able to meet your needs, and I apologize for you having to wait, did you say 30 months? Oh, 3 months for SSL certificates. Both your AOM and CAM should be able to work with you to be able to get that done for you. I just can't explain off the top of my head what's causing your particular issue.
All right, so there's basically specific questions you have about where you are in this queue and when you're going to get service, but the definition of success, I don't want to say speak now or forever you hold your peace, but I want to know, I asked earlier how many of you knew what transformation meant, maybe 10% raised hands. If I asked you the same question, are we feeling better about the definition? I mean, we got a lot of technical buzzwords in the presentation, but is the description sufficient to help you clear about where we want to be by June 30, and we're about to get into the beyond?
Am I allowed to vote?
You're not allowed to vote. Anyone else have questions, thoughts, or concerns? Again, no need to be shy. That's the purpose of this discussion. Von Mall, you're cool? I'm going to the heavy hitters in this room, you see.
Rick, tell them you're cool.
One of the responses you described that the agency would be responsible for signing off on a server change. You've got to realize the agencies are disarmed. They don't have the people to know whether what they're doing is right.
It's a philosophical question. How can they sign off on something if they don't know about it?
Yeah, David, I think you're right. There are certain agencies, I don't think yours is one of them, quite frankly, that are able to discern what's happening with a server, et cetera, et cetera. There are others, much smaller, that don't have staff and never had staff to do such a thing. And we're going to have to integrate and work with those agencies on a case-by-case basis based upon where they are in this, I'll call it maturity scale. But Rick, I'd hope you'd say that, if we're going to make a change to your infrastructure, you're aware, hopefully all the time, and understand the potential of the change, and we've discussed with you that we've got a backup plan if should the change go wrong, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm certain that it has not happened every time, But, part of it is you have to rely on us as the technical expertise to be able to identify the need for the change, that we've got a good way to implement the change, and should the change go wrong, that we're going to fix it and either back it out or fix it going forward.
Well, some of the problem we're having is the people that are putting in these changes aren't familiar with their environment. I mean, they really don't understand their application. And their application people aren't certain people, so they don't know, whether a change is going to affect them or not. And the change goes in. Obviously, we've had similar experience with teachers that changes go in, we don't know. And we've discussed it. And this whole change.
Well, the change going in that you don't know about is unacceptable if you have a process that we can and should integrate into, right? The fact that changes cause problems is absolutely a concern, but it's not at all a surprise. The vast majority of the problems that occur in infrastructure are as a result of changes, whether it's an operating system upgrade or a new server install or a new router iOS upgrade, whatever it is. The key to that is the process that we're going to use, change management being a key component of ITIL, release management being a key component of ITIL, of how we're going to respond to it when a problem occurs. And, process improvement is a key focus and one that's going to take time to perfect. In fact, I'd say process can never be perfected. You always have to improve processes going forward.
I think that the takeaway I hear from what you're describing and what you've said in the back is understanding the balance between application demand and infrastructure capability and changes on both sides and how they interface. There's a capacity question. Do we know technically what these changes mean on either side of the equation? And then there's a process issue, which is, are we communicating? I think we can solve the communicating part easier. The policy question I think we're going to want to grapple with is how do we build up our knowledge capacity so that we can actually ensure whatever change is proposed is measured against the needs of the application and back and forth. David, to your point, I don't know if we have a library of talent that's there to basically judge those issues and give you the guidance you need when you talk. So we're going to put that on. I'm going to put that one, Peggy, on your shoulders to think about what is our response to make sure when server changes are brought forward that there's some way of knowing with confidence that the application environment can maintain it. We can have a thoughtful discussion with the partnership so that we've got a good plan. But that's an area for focus. Yes, Peggy?
So let me just expand upon that a little bit in the sense of applications changes beforehand and working out that and how we'll know about those changes ahead of time. But on the same sense, I would be remiss from my ISO would not be happy if I didn't say from the back end on when getting reports or something to be able, because as the ISO, they feel they are responsible from a security perspective on those applications of knowing what hardening, what changes have been done on the servers, a report of some kind to ensure that they are in compliance from an application perspective, from an application security perspective. So again, just working out a process by when those are done and when those hardenings are done, that the agencies get reports back that show that their applications are secure and what was upgraded and stuff. So I think both on the one side of what changes need to be done are going to be done so that the applications know about it, but then on the back end, what's been done so the application knows that they're secure.
Yeah, as you know, many changes are driven by either bug or patch fixes that are really security related, either in an operating system or some other layered product. I think what you're asking is if you make a change to an operating system to fix a security, I'll say, flaw in an operating system, that it doesn't create a security flaw in the application.
Or yes, just what changes were done.
Absolutely. You should know what we're doing, but the expertise required to understand how the operating system is going to impact the application can only come from the agency who knows their application.
All right, let me wrap up on this definition of success, sir, please.
Yeah, first of all, for Virginia Motor Vehicle Deal Board, we are a small agency. You mentioned something about small agencies. And just in general, talking about success, the definition of success, in particular with transforming to the servers in applications. Small agencies such as ours, we contract out with someone to help us with our applications. With success, the definition of success include a do no harm, no cost for the agency in having to actually pay a vendor by the hour to make any sort of changes to applications to fit in with your service. Now, we've heard over and over again, do no harm, and we have a budget, and we've not budgeted for in transforming to the servers that we have to pay someone. We don't have someone on staff that we can say, well, spend the next 20 hours doing that, but we have to pay someone.
I'm going to ask that be a Billy discussion, because when he describes the survey, probably the biggest input to the survey was unbudgeted staff or agency expense that relates to complying with our transformation plans. Those were not as transparent to planning and budget, and this survey is going to help address that. Let's put that one into the parking lot for when Billy gets up here.
And before it's completely in the parking lot, some of us include our special fund agency, and as far as I know, there's no opportunity for planning and budget to provide dollars for us because we operate simply on
Correct.
so
But
we're
we want
sort
the
of in a bad
information
spot.
to be able to make the right judgments. To your point, there are going to be impacts that are federal related, and then there are impacts that are fee related. There might be flexibility around the fee related as opposed to the federally related. Okay, just to be clear, Burhop, you're cool? Are we all on the same page for the definition of transformation? So far, so good, everybody? All right, bring us home, Fred, and then we'll get to the next committees.
So this next slide really gives you some insight into the agencies that are currently scheduled to be completed substantially by June, with the exception of certain service areas that are highlighted in white. As we tried to describe as we've gone out through the session on the definition of transformation, recognizing that transformation is an integrated set of services and processes, there are certain things in certain service areas that give us flexibility. In messaging, maybe Active Directory integration can be delayed. In servers, maybe relocating a server could be delayed until after June. But that doesn't prevent us from getting to what I started with, calling this a managed service. Being able to manage all of the infrastructure in the environment to certain service level characteristics, performance characteristics, etc. Now, what we heard from you all in the last town hall and what we discussed in our committee was a focus on your particular needs, your particular requirements, and your particular agency. How are we going to do transformation for you based upon network transformation at DSS or server relocations at DMV or whatever it is? The colleagues that are about to join the stage are going to present some feedback that they'll share with you about their experiences if they've gone through transformation, and some recommendations that they're going to make to all of us about how do we improve communications, how do we improve project planning, et cetera, in our daily interaction, recognizing that we're all going to be better off as we go through this and get to the other side of transformation. So with that, I'll introduce Val Thompson from DEQ, Sharon Kitchens from Tax, and Elizabeth Wong from the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts.